Alright guys, today we are going to fix content in Hockey Ultimate Team. This is not about modes or anything like that or features. This is going to be specifically tied to the content that is released weekly, daily, and yearly in Hockey Ultimate Team. I have to say, I think the live content team has done a great job listening to feedback from the community. I think they are very tied to what EA allows them to release. So I have to keep that in mind. I don't want to, again, drastically change things. I want to come up with some realistic changes that, God forbid they listen to everyone, has a potential shot to actually be improved and implemented in NHL 23. Now, we have to assume that cross-console is a thing, because if it's not implemented, this is all just useless talk. But if cross-console and cross-market becomes a thing, then we're in business here, and all of these things have a shot to be implemented. All right, guys, so again, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. All right, let's get into it. Okay, guys, so let's start with kind of the meat and potatoes of what Hockey Ultimate Team is now, and that's honestly the XFactors. That was the biggest feature added, and they won't remove it because that would legitimately make NHL 22 the worst game ever created, because it means it was just a wasted thing, because this was really the only big implementation we got year over year. So let's talk about XFactors and how to improve upon them in the future going forward, because at launch of the game, they were awesome. I mean, just the card art alone, when you actually got them up to their maximum, kind of made them worth it, because it was just a cool thing that we got going from the headshot to the card art. There were certain cards that I just did it with because I wanted the flex and I thought it looked cool in my team, and I'm sure there's people out there that have the same thought. That being said, they quickly became less and less useful because of them being tied to what they had at launch of the game. And here's what I mean. We don't get to beta test Hockey Ultimate Team, which is... we don't know what the meta is going to be, what the desired zone abilities or superstar abilities are. And I have to give, EA some credit here, is that they didn't either, right? Like, it's not like we were able to know that Shock and Awe was just not going to be a very useful ability. And it is tied to the player, which I think is important. So I don't think that should change. I think that the initial X Factor, when they are launched, the zone ability should be tied to something that makes sense. You can't give Truculence to Cale Makar because he doesn't hit really. So that wouldn't make much sense. However, here is the huge change that I think should be implemented to make X Factors more and more useful, because, like I mentioned, as the year went along, they became less and less useful because the cost went up so much. And really, the slow progression was kind of meh. And especially if the X Factor, I'll use Austin Matthews as an example, you knew what his abilities were, and they were all super mediocre or downright unusable. So you knew that investing in this card was really just to get him to Team of the Season. And that's not really a good way to have X Factors be your focal point of content. So here is what I would do for X Factors, okay? We're going to talk about prime times and team of the week and card releases and all of that. But anytime that there is a new card that is released, it should be tied to something they've done in real life. So if Austin Matthews gets a card for a hat trick and it's on one-timers, or there's something specific that he gets a massive one-timer goal, he should get 1T as his zone ability. Let's say his prime or his team of the week gets a gold 1T. His X Factor should have that selection now available to them. Their overall goes up when a new card is released. Why can't their abilities be chosen as well? So what would happen is, the next day when the card would be released, the zone ability, you'd be able to hit square just like you can on the synergies, and you'd be able to change from Shock and Awe, which you could still have because he's earned that, to 1T. Same with his superstar abilities, okay? I think that would really drastically improve the dynamic ability of X Factors, because no longer would you be like, okay, this X Factor doesn't mean anything or isn't very good because his abilities aren't going to improve. There's really nothing here that would make him all that valuable. However, if you give him close quarters or quick draw because he has a really strong knight on the face-off dot, something like that, I think you'd be in business if you could change Make It Snappy to quick draw, or Puck on a String to close quarters, because he's had cards released that had those abilities. I think that would really, really impact the usefulness of X Factors. Next, we got to talk about the cost. There has to be a way to mitigate the cost of these cards, and until we get objective-based or milestone available in NHL, it's really... I don't see how or why EA is going to change it. I would love it if they did, if they cut the cost in half, but I know they won't because it's EA. But nonetheless, let's say with this Austin Matthews card, you score 100 goals. If you score 100 goals with any card, okay, online, The problem becomes is that you can do it on squad battles and you can do it on rookie mode. So maybe you eliminate it doing it on rookie mode and it's got to be superstar and above. I think that superstar is very easy. When you consider other video games when they're on their hardest difficulty, Madden or MLB, the casual player has no shot. Like, the hardest difficulty is extremely challenging. In NHL, it's just not. Like, I don't want to say that any casual player could just easily dominate in Superstar, but you have a shot to win. Okay, I think we can all agree there that you have a shot to win on Superstar if you can get to Division 8 or 7 and have a basic understanding of the game. So maybe set it at Superstar, and stats from Superstar do count, and then anything online, that would mitigate the cost. Let's say, you get 3 power-up collectibles or a certain amount of collectibles that would allow you to upgrade if you are able to hit those milestones. I'd love it if they just automatically upgraded, but I think that that's way above their head, and I don't think that's going to be an option. But that would be my biggest change to XFactors, is that I think that you need to be able to select zone abilities. They need to be interchangeable based on cards being released, and that would hold up their cost. Because if a team of the season comes out, let's say, team of the season comes out, and Austin Matthews has unbelievable abilities, this card is now useless, and you've spent $2 million upgrading him. The only thing that you've got out of it is the ability to trade them in. But imagine that all those superstar abilities on the XFactor, you could choose. So the XFactor cost from the launch of the game all the way to the end would be extremely high, and getting these cards would be very, very sought after. Just something to keep in mind. The last real important thing, and it was the first thing I had mentioned when testing and finding out about XFactors, is you need to be able to use the newly released card that is high in overall to put into the XFactor. So, for example, if Austin Matthews gets a 91 at launch of the game, okay, it unlocks the tier that you can now pay for his XFactor. However, if you pack the 91 untradeable, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's kind of pointless. So, what you could do, take that XFactor, automatically boost that take that Master Set or Primetime or Team of the Week or whatever card it is and throw it right into the Austin Matthews. It boosts his XFactor right up to the top. That holds an extremely high value for the newly released cards as well. Not even just Master Sets. Like, let's say he gets a random 89 NHL moment card, something like that. We're going to talk about moments in a second. That's why I keep mentioning it. And you pack that card or you acquire it, you can skip all of the tiers and go right up to 91. And again, it would unlock his zone abilities that could be chosen. So something to keep in mind. I would love to see that. XFactors, I think, are good in the sense of the card the card collecting and the upgrading part of Hockey Ultimate Team. They just need to be expanded upon because they were useless 2 months into the game, and it was just sad to see, really. Next, when it comes to XFactors, I really want to see it go to the elite of the elite, okay? I think that you could whittle down the XFactor list to 20 players, maybe 25, and what would be cool is if a player is having an exceptional season. Johnny Gaudreau, okay? Johnny Gaudreau, halfway through the season, if he's got 100 points, or maybe at the end of the month, okay? It doesn't need to be a star of the month. I'm thinking this as I'm talking, guys, so let me know. But if they got like a very, very, recognized for an unbelievable month, give him an XFactor, okay? Johnny Gaudreau has 20 points in a month. Give him an XFactor. That would allow Chris Kreider, someone in chat while I'm recording this live just said Chris Kreider. Perfect example. Guy has 50 goals. All respect to Elias Pettersson. I get that he, prior to this season, was expected to do more. But Chris Kreider deserves an XFactor because he is an XFactor in the NHL this season, whereas Elias Pettersson is just not. Sorry, Canucks fans. So that is, again, something I would love to see. Future releases of XFactor cards. And I know the card art thing might be an issue because, hey, they can't always release special card art because they've got to get that done, and how that works is a whole other thing that you guys don't know, but they actually have to get an artist to go through and do that, and that might not be, it's not in-house usually, so that might be difficult. But at the end of the month, if you're doing it for future XFactor or Master Sets, at the end of each month, prepare for that. You have a list of XFactors that could get launched at the end of each month. I think that'd be a really cool addition, but again, I think that the initial launch of the game, the XFactors should be very minimal because of how powerful they would be given this new system and how they would upgrade. All right, next up, prime times. Get them out. Get them out of this game. It's an archaic system. I hate it. It is only there to say we get content, and, half the time it's players that you've never heard of or don't know. Or it's 87 overall Louis Domingue in May. He deserves a primetime or something special because of what he did in game 1 against the Rangers. An 87 is not it. That is not going to move the needle for anyone. Prime times, get him out of here. Here is what I think should happen. Go from a quantity to a quality system when it comes to content. Would everyone be mad that there wouldn't be a ton of new cards every day? Yeah, because we're used to a ton of cards. If you compare NHL to MLB, which I do all the time, MLB releases far less content when you think about it. If you think about cards released, it's not even close. I mean, every week we get one headliner, which is one card every single week in MLB. We get 12 a day in prime times, right? Which takes time to actually go through and do. Again, guys, you don't see the stuff that goes on in the background, but someone has to go through all of the stats and everything from the night prior and pick these prime times. That's just a waste of time because the arbitrary upgrade by +1 or +2 is just, it's NHL 17. Like, get away from that. It's dumb. I don't like it. Eliminate prime times. What they should do, and what I think has been awesome, and it was implemented last year, is they should get moments cards. So, it should be very difficult. There shouldn't be an arbitrary thing, but anytime something special happens from a night before or a weekend before, NHL moments card should be done. This card right here has card art, has a banner, has a thing explaining why the card received it. If you aren't a Penguins fan, or maybe, I guess this would be kind of a moot point because it's a playoffs and everyone's probably paying attention. But let's say you didn't watch the Rangers or the Penguins game. Why is Louis Domingue getting a card? Why is that happening? You have no idea. However, he should have gotten a card probably because of what he ended up doing. He came in overtime, went to triple overtime against a decent, I know I get a lot of flack from this, a good Rangers team, and he was completely cold. Have him get some card art and a picture and throw that in there. Like that, and it should be highly rated. An 89 overall Louis Domingue at launch of the game. That'd be a bad example, but 87. It shouldn't be, +2 to whatever he was. That's dumb, in my opinion. And now, there could be a couple, but I would take 3 specifically designed cards, a couple times a week, over 12 arbitrary cards that had 2 goals and an assist that no one knows and understands why, and they are completely useless. The reason why primetimes have just taken such a hit is because you don't do anything with them. All that you are excited for when you get primetimes is that, hey, does my X Factor go up? That's it. Or my team of the season, or my team of the year. And for anyone that argues otherwise, I apologize. And I know the one argument I will get is that, well, free-to-play players can't afford top-end X Factors and things like that. I understand that. But these cards are going to drop so much in value that you're better off immediately selling them because they will drop in cost. Anytime, if you're free-to-play and you pack if you let's say right now you packed a 97, bad example. Let's say at the launch of the game you pack a 87 Jamie Benn, okay? That 87 Jamie Benn's going to be a good card, probably one of your best. Immediately sell, because no matter what, primetimes will always go down in price and in value because they just don't do anything, okay? So I do like that primetimes now, their X Factors, or their abilities and everything are tied to what happened in game, but that should just be for moments, Brian Rust scored a goal. Malkin scored the overtime winner. Okay, that's fine. Makar had that really nice goal, but there's other things you could do with Makar for that example. But I think it should go to a specific, a specific card release like this. NHL moments should be how primetimes are done, and it should take a specific or a very, very big moment for you to get these cards daily. Some days there probably isn't going to be any. I don't think that there should be one every day. The other thing that should stay is plays of the year, because like I mentioned, these cards are very good because they are tied to what actually happens. Their attributes go up based on what the actual thing happens. So, Cale Makar's goal, off the top of my head, that goal that he scored against Nashville in Game 1, that was a phenomenal goal. Great goal. He could get elite edges as his zone ability. He could get deking or, balance, something like that, and wrist shot, because that's how he scored, right? A nice little wrist shot upstairs. He should get upgraded attributes based on that. These should definitely stay, but prime times, get him out of there. All right, let's talk Team of the Week, and this one's a little bit more difficult because I think Team of the Week does need to stay in the game, and I'll explain why. It's specifically for squad battles. I had a way to fix squad battles. And actually, that was well received, which I'm pretty surprised about because it was kind of out there of an idea. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch the video. But when it comes to squad battles in the team of the week, I do kind of enjoy this, especially if you're an offline player. It gives something kind of cool to go after. I get that they changed from an arbitrary whoever did well that week, because that's what prime times are, to a theme team, and I do like that. However, you have 52 weeks in a year. Not a fan of the 2016-17 Minnesota Wild when the playoffs are going on. They got knocked out in the first round. Cool that you're recognizing them, but first of all, it's May. They should be 99s or 95s and above. But that's besides the point. How I think Team of the Week should work is, again, a quality over quantity system. You need the issue with NHL is that they need to recognize multiple leagues, whereas in other video games and sports games like Madden, they don't need to recognize colleges or the minor leagues or anything like that. Same with MLB, they don't recognize the minor league in hockey or in Dynasty. In NHL, they have to show love to the other professional leagues because, well, I'm assuming there's probably a quota or something because they have the rights to those leagues, and there's a very big European following in NHL in the video game. So you can't just eliminate them. What you could do is a team of the week where it's 6 players, one for each position, from each of the, this would be the 4 I would break it down. The EU, so all the European leagues. 6 players, that's it. One for each position. They are significantly improved in overalls. I'm not talking you get an 82 because he was an 80 before going into that team of the week. At launch, the minimum that a team of the week card should be 85 or 86. They need to be impactful. And if somebody scores 6 goals in a game, God forbid we get just the arbitrary +6 or whatever the overall is to his shooting stat. Make it higher. Make it higher. Like that needs to happen. If someone has 7 assists in a week, give him a lot higher passing. Okay. So EU should be a 6 slot for team of the week. NA or the NHL should receive one, obviously. The CHL, all the major junior leagues, and then the AHL. Okay, and maybe you don't have the AHL always represented because it's probably the least of the followed leagues. But at least those 3, major junior, North America, the NHL and the EU. 6 from each, okay? That would give great representation. Like, for example, I love the Niagara Ice Dogs. I'm a big OHL guy. There's a huge following from the CHL. I would love if Shane Wright pops off for the Kingston Frontenacs and he gets a card, make it useful. 85 at launch of the game. That would be sick. I would love that. That would be a great way to keep them meaningful throughout the... If you pull a team of the week right now, if you pull a 90 Nino Niederreiter, sick. Now, at launch of the game, you pull an 86 overall Shane Wright. That's an exciting card because he's Shane Wright. Just don't give the arbitrary stat upgrade. Make them usable. That's it. That's all I ask. Make them usable. Now, not every card could be super highly sought after, all right? So there could be European cards. I don't think just because they earn a team of the week in a European league, they should be bumped up automatically to whatever the NHL should be. So there are going to be team of the week cards that are just not, they don't move the needle, okay? How should those be used? I think there should be a team of the month. I think there should be a team of the month and that we lead up to it. It would be super exciting if we are trying to figure out and there's a release of a team of the month card, and the team of the month cards, those should be high. I'm talking 6 players from each. I mean, maybe the issue is the other leagues in the NHL. Again, selfishly, I would love it if it was just the NHL because that's the league I follow. All right. So for all my European following, I apologize, but it has to include the European leagues. If 91 is the highest overall that you can get in the launch of month of the game, much like it was this year with Austin Matthews being a 91 and Jaromir Jagr, team of the week, the star of the month should be, the team of the month should be 91s. Something very high like that. Or maybe it's 91s for the NHL, and we move it down a little bit as we go through the other leagues. And you can turn in, your team of the week cards that are less sought after to get those cards. Okay? You can turn them in to try and get a choice pack, something like that. That's how they should be used. Because what I would love to see for the NHL content is that every card be useful. And they kind of hit on that because you can turn 90s into collectibles for whatever master set. And I get that, but it's just lame. It doesn't give value to that card. So just something I would like to see. I would like to see a team of the month that is significantly upgraded, hits a baseline. That would be really cool. All right, guys, let's talk team builders. They added them back in. I think they were implemented last year. Or at least an iteration of it was, and they very, very good this year. I loved that the team builders came in. They gave a really fun card to go out and multiple cards you go out to grind for. I remember trying to create them and make them early on was a battle, and I love that. I love a very difficult card you can go out and chase. It takes a very long time. It makes content last longer too. Here is my issue: is I understand what they did. They went from a specific card model to any card model. So you need a specific amount of 80 plus Anaheim Duck players, and then all of these other ones, just that could be any. And while I get that, that's good because it stops the gatekeeping. With cross-market and cross-console, this wouldn't be necessary. The reason why this is needed is because there's no cards on the market. Like, could you imagine if you had to collect a base Ryan Getzlaf and there was 3 total on each system? That would be a $200,000 79 overall card. That can't happen. So this is completely null and void unless there is cross-market and cross-console, okay? Okay, how Team Builder should work. It should go back to collecting every card. And here is why. Because once you cash them in prior NHLs and this one, you lose these cards. You don't lose them. You cash them in, you still have them. So if you have Connor McDavid and you are trying to collect the Edmonton Oilers, and getting base Connor McDavid is just an absolute battle. And I understand Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those are $100,000 coin cards. McDavid's even more than that at launch of the game. However, your reward should not be an arbitrary 85 overall team builder. It should be, again, this is at launch of the game, a 91 Mark Messier or not Wayne Gretzky, something like that. It should be tied to how difficult the overall is to acquire, okay? Imagine Mark Messier isn't just a random icon that you got, but instead a 91 overall card that you had to collect every card for. Why this would be an improvement would be every card you pull. If I pull this Brendan Perlini, if I pull this Brendan Perlini and I need to collect all of the Edmonton Oilers, this card's going to be worth way more because it's a specific card that I need, okay? And it would make these icons something very difficult and something to chase after. I think that's something that's desperately needed. And a lot of people would be like, free-to-play, these would be impossible cards to go after. Sure, they'd be very difficult to go after. But as you're playing as a free-to-play player, if you pulled this Brendan Perlini and you had no interest in trying to get this, the Mark Messier card, you could sell this for thousands of coins. You see? You make a choice, much like an MLB. If you don't want to go after the 99 collection reward, you don't have to, and you can take advantage of pulling a live series card that you have no interest in using and sell him for an exceptional amount of stubs or coins because he is hard to acquire for the people that are trying to complete the collection. Now, every card should have an icon tied to it, okay? And I'm almost at the point where, what they did with icons this year, we're going to get into that in a little bit. This is a lot to cover. Maybe we move on and we go from a different 65 at random overalls, and maybe the majority of the icons are just team builders because I think that would be really cool. So let's say, what would be a bad team? The Sharks. The Sharks don't have many high overall players, okay? Carlson and Burns are going to take a hit. They're probably going to be an 82 overall Burns. They're just going to keep falling in overall, maybe except for Meyer and Hurdle. That being said, they're much cheaper to acquire, okay? So if you cash all these in, you get this is at launch of the game, an 85 Scott Hannon, an 87 Scott Hannon, something a little bit higher, okay? Again, the reward would make sense based on the cards you're cashing in, okay? Seattle, if you get Seattle, this is tough. Mark Giordano would be one. An 85 overall or an 84 overall Mark Giordano to collect all of the Seattle Kraken. Again, it should not be gatekept by every card being the same value. Each team's value will fluctuate, okay? So obviously Edmonton's is going to be very, very high, as is Florida's next year probably. Florida's going to cost quite a bit. Like, let's say you cash in Florida, you get a 91 overall Olli Jokinen or Roberto. Oh, I would love Roberto Luongo in the game. Just an example, guys. But that's how I think team builders should work. And then there should be divisional rewards, okay? Much like MLB. This is something they should directly copy, and they sort of did. So if you collect all of the Pacific Division, that includes the Edmonton Oilers, you should get like a 95 overall card. Very hard to acquire. And everyone's going to be like, everyone would just have superpower teams. Make it so that you see this card one every 15 games. Okay? Like, I think that people get hung up on everyone's going to have Mario and Gretzky because the 99 is released into the game at launch. I get that you can't have a 99, but what you could do is have them upgrade every month or something arbitrary that they do, but at least you have them acquired and you know that they're going to be 99s. And then obviously have a 99 that is for completing the entire conference. So you complete all of the divisions in the Eastern Conference, you get the 99 overall Mario Lemieux. You complete all the Western Conference teams, you get the Wayne Gretzky. I think that's how Team Builder should work. I think that you've got a good start, but I think that card collecting needs to be more of a thing. They need to not take your cards when you cash them in. It would be completely useless to get a 91 Mark Messier if you had to cash in your 89 Connor McDavid. So allow us to keep it. It becomes untradeable, but allow us to keep it. All right, now this shouldn't just tie to the NHL. I mentioned the CHL. I think that this would be a really good opportunity. Again, maybe I'm biased because I am a big OHL fan, but I'll use the Ice Dogs as an example. Bronze and silver cards mean absolutely nothing. They are pointless. You can turn them into golds. That's it. But when you pull a 63 Landon Cato, no one cares. Unfortunately, respectfully, if you pull the Landon Cato and you got a Niagara Ice Dog reward for collecting all of the Niagara Ice Dogs, and it was an 87 Dougie Hamilton or Alex Pietrangelo or Ryan Strome or Carter Verhaeghe, something like that, all these cards go way up in value. So when you pull them, you're stoked. That's awesome. And there's enough alumni in every OHL and CHL team to make one. I think that the Sarnia Sting, you collect all of the Sarnia Sting, okay? Depending on, and again, the overall should fluctuate a little bit. Actually, probably not because they're all silver and bronze cards. You get Steven Stamkos' Sarnia Sting card. And maybe it has specific stats tied to how he played for the Sarnia Sting. Something like that. I think that would be really cool. And I think that's desperately needed. You could do it for the European leagues as well. I think that it would be... This would all be done in the summertime pre-launch. So I don't think... Well, I think it's very difficult, but I think that this would be something that is desperately needed, and it would improve the cost of silvers and bronze in every card, for example. You could do it with the IHF teams as well. It would be a little bit more difficult because these would be released separately, but let's say the event comes out for the World Juniors, things like that. If you collect 5 of them, doesn't matter which ones, you get a Team Canada Sidney Crosby. That's maybe 87. So it doesn't have to always be the highest card. It just has to be something in a flex card, something cool. All right, next let's talk about events. I've been pretty critical of events this year. I think that there's been some cool events. I think they've all just made no sense when it comes to the cards selected. So I've done a few videos going over the prior events and the cards that I would choose. I'll use Rivals as an example. A lot of these really didn't make sense. I guess Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes are kind of a rival, and then obviously Rasmus Anderson and Puljujarvi. These two are not rivals. It's just the Oilers and the Flames. So, but let's take that aside. I think that these need to be star players that are non-X Factors. Now, you can give an X Factor a Master Set player as long as you can turn that X Factor or that Master Set, like take 91 Sidney Crosby and turn him into the X Factor card. However, that being said, I understand why they recognize... I'm going to use this one because this is the prototype one. I'm going to use this one. Eric Brandstrom. I don't even know if Senators fans were stoked for this, but nonetheless... They recognize players that don't necessarily deserve master sets, but because they don't receive a lot of prime times and team of the weeks, they give out cards because, for fan service. You have players on each of these. I could go through each of these teams that deserves one more. So Brandstrom, a non-X Factor star player, Thomas Chabot. Chabot should have been this. Actually, it shouldn't have been at all because it's 16-bit heroes, and Brandstrom wasn't even alive when the 16-bit era was going on. But for example, that's just something. It should not be Eric Brandstrom. I think that it really needs to tie to the event as well. The 16-bit heroes event should have only been icons and alumni. That's it. It should have been cards that were highly rated during Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis era. I don't really understand. That one blows my mind. But it keeps happening. When it comes, The Stanley Cup event has Max Pacioretty, who has never won a cup, never been to the finals. So the choices need to, A, make sense, but they also need to be, again, non-X-Factor, Drew Doughty. I can't stand Drew Doughty. He doesn't have an X-Factor card, nor does he deserve one, but he gets a Master Set item. Makes sense. That makes sense. I think that needs to be a big focus when it comes to the Master Set players, because every time you have an event where the cards aren't exciting, I'll take the All-Star event. Love the All-Star event. Don't change how that operates. But very few people are excited for Gary Suter or Milan Hajduk. Okay? And I was around for the Milan Hajduk years. Briere, exciting. I mean, I think that because he was more universally, I don't want to say known, but they need to make more sense is all. That's all I'm trying to get at. And it needs to be players, a lot of them, again, there's a lot less X factors in my model. So I just think that should be a bigger focus. All right, next is how you acquire them. I think that it's absolutely brutal, the cost to make them. I think that they did a very good job releasing 86s so that every single player, regardless of how much money you spend on the game, can actually acquire these things. I think that's a great option here, and something that's, a big improvement over prior years. The cost is absolutely astronomical. You should be able to knock down the price. All right, let's talk about how you actually acquire these cards. And they did some good things in this year when it came to acquiring master sets. They switched to a system where they released 86 overall cards and allow you to actually upgrade them at the cost, which was astronomical, but it at least allow you to get involved, because prior you had to have 400,000 coins every 2 weeks or you weren't getting any master sets. So free-to-play players could actually get some of the cards if they really wanted the cards, which I really, really like. However, they should be mitigated. The cost should be mitigated if you play the game and do things with these cards. So I talked about milestones and upgrades for like X factors to knock down their cost. If I score 25 goals or complete moments, like God forbid we get moments. Okay, I'm going to use Connor Bedard as an example. All right, let's say you want the 92 or the 91 Connor Bedard, whatever the highest overall is. Okay, at the release of the event, everyone gets a choice pack, depending on how many overall master sets are released. Let's pretend the under 22 event had 8 master sets, okay? You get a choice pack. It could be 1. You get 1 choice out of it, okay? It's free. They're all 80 overalls, okay? They're all 80 overalls at this. Obviously pretty useless. However, if you went in and you completed milestones for that specific player, or let's say you went to hut challenges, because God, these are pointless. Let's say there was a hut challenge for each of the events, and it was like Connor Bedard's path, and you had to do specific things that Connor Bedard did throughout his career or out his season, and every time that you completed all of these moments, he jumped up 3 overalls, or you got enough collectibles to actually throw it in to jump up 3 overalls, because you actually completed that content. Then, if he scores 20 goals, okay, if he scores 20 goals in online, give him more collectibles, or to allow us to upgrade him. It needs to be tied to using the card. That way, it mitigates the cost, the insane cost, because you're just giving us an 86 is fine. Making him cost 400k and making him untradeable completely nullifies the point of it. All right, guys, there's a lot of other things I can talk about, but this is going to drag on and on. I don't really want it to. Let me know what you think of the things I discussed in this video, and I maybe do a part 2. We'll see. But again, thank you guys for listening. I need your feedback, so make sure you comment on this, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.